Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are at. Hope you're having a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about all the currently active and upcoming events that are going to be available coming this week. As you guys all know, that we're getting closer and closer to the update where we're going to have this month being a pretty expansive one. There's high expectations with the anniversary experience coming up soon. So if you guys aren't familiar with it, last year and the years precluding this one, we have on March one of Raid's biggest, or I'm not sure if it's Raid or Plarium. I believe it's Raid's anniversary that comes up, and basically there's a lot of activities, a lot of events, and a lot of stuff that come up. So I wanted to do a breakdown on today's video to kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea as to what's coming up, what to expect, and maybe whether or not you should or should not invest towards it. So with that being said, at the time of this recording, as you can see in the bottom right of our screen there, we have it's basically Monday the 3rd of March, so it's the beginning of the month. I'm going to start with some of the things that are coming up following this day at the time of this recording. Should be available, I believe, going into tomorrow, March 4th. And that's going to be a Pogo event. So we're going to get a pull one, get one for Sacreds. So if you have an interest in getting another one, you're really close to mercing, you're wanting to get your hands on multiple Legos for various reasons, outside of, maybe selected targeted events, this could be a great opportunity for you to do so. I will not lie, the chance rate is pretty much the exact same as it normally would be, which is standard rates, 6% chance to get a Lego whenever you pull a shard, and then after you get to a certain point of pulling without a Lego, you get a chance at mercy. Now, I will say that I have reservations and hesitations on this one. There's no associated progressive or exponential chance to get another champion, so you'd be just going for yellow. That's basically all you would be doing in that one, right? I'm kind of cautious, but I'll save my inclinations for later. In addition to that, we also have another event that's kind of surprising, and I kind of feel like it's a throwaway almost. We have a Soul Chase tournament coming up where it's what you get, and that's the whole point about chases. It's not what you use, it's what you get. And the higher the reward value that you get, like the higher the blessing, the higher the rarity, the better the points you get, and you get some stuff around the lines. Now, I wanted to show you guys right here where we're at, where it's showing it's going to show up in 10 hours. It looks like you got some rewards on the side, like Lego books, Mythic books, and XP barrels, which, to be honest with you, are kind of mediocre in terms of rewards, in my opinion. And I also wanted to double tap with this just to kind of see if there was any more information given in the event calendar. And lo and behold, they have epic books as well as void shards in there in case you're interested in getting something out of your shard soulstone pools. But the thing is, though, is that there's no enhanced rates events as far as I'm aware. It's just literally a pool event. So I would caution, I would advise that it'd probably be more fruitful for you to wait for a event that gives you an exponential chance and increase in terms of rank and rarity and drop results. So look for your info tab inside the Altar of Souls and see if there's going to be any changes to some of the numbers here. If there's any yellow changes, that means there's going to be a boosted rate effect, and that's when you want to pull. These kind of events right now kind of seem to be throwaway events to kind of have something to fill in the empty gaps, and or baits to try to encourage players to pull shards, knowing that there's something bigger on the horizon. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with these two events that are currently active. I kind of feel like they're throwaway events or events that are not really lucrative to go in. So I will say that unless there's some other reason or justification otherwise to push me to wanting to pull, I'm pretty much just going to coast, and I'm going to go ahead and just start stockpiling and saving. Now, with that being said, the bulk of today's video, and I wanted to kind of break this one down a little bit more, is our Dwarves Summoning Pool Unity Faction Prism event, whatever you want to call it. I am flabbergasted, just to say it like this. I'm flabbergasted to see what we got as a result of it. I'm going to break it down how I normally do, and then I'll give my thoughts and opinions at the end of it, okay? So hang tight. We're going to go through the chat pools and see what's in there and kind of give you guys a little bit more of a purview. I also went ahead and preemptively farmed one of the available events that just went live today, which was the Sand Devil Turn Attack event to get an extra set of prisms to do a pull, which we will pull at the end of this video. But yeah, Unity Champion, Admiral Black Tusk. I think he's actually an interesting one to go for, and I actually would not be upset if people wanted to go out of their way just for this champion alone. I think he is pretty good. I think he is a great champion to have partnered up, especially if you got some pretty key, noteworthy dwarves in your faction, in your list of acquired champions. Think like Frolini, excuse me. You got Senna, maybe that's a great booster / support champion. You have champs like Torment, who could be freeze disruptors. You also have a pretty decent like stack of champions that can be pretty useful, right? So like in summary, there's some small options like Arnorn that could be pretty useful in partnership with Black Tusk here that could be really, really good. And I could see some value in that, whether that's Siege or PvP. Not bad. Not bad. But when you look at the rest of the champion pool, it's kind of interesting. So let's break it down. On the Epic side, and I'm going to do this for early to in-game fashion like how we normally do, and tell you guys about why you should or should not pull, okay? So let's break it down. Early game, basically anything you get is a W, right? So you have a limited champion pool, you have limited progression, so anything that can be beneficial towards implementing a further progressive stance is always good, right? Now, what key champions stand out for me? Well, I won't lie. It depends on what your focus of progression is going to be. So I think some standouts that automatically just kind of transcend a lot of progression across the board and is a great staple in a player's account would be someone like Geomancer. If you're not familiar with him, we've probably broken him down too many times to count now, but his passive is bonkers, and the only thing that's conditional is that he has to place the HP burn, which he doesn't need on his A3. And it can go through elements like Poisonous Cloud and some other areas in the game that makes it a very, very strong way to be able to acquire that debuff and that passive activation with him in place. So a very, very strong champion. I'll give another special nod to some other key champions that may be kind of robust and usable. If you're looking for like a general AoE champion that does AoE decreased defense, Fodbar is really, really strong. He has a buff steal as well as a stun on a 3-turn cooldown on his A2. And of course, his A1 has a chance to apply heal reduction. Now, why do I want to give a nod to this champion? Well, it depends. Early game players, you're going to see opportunities where heal reduction can be valuable. I want you to think about one of the potion keeps. I believe it might be the Spirit one, where having heal reduction prevents the boss from constantly keeping the battle of attrition being a problem. Same thing with like maybe the potion keep for magic, where there's a big shield. He can steal that shield, which is really nice. Now, keep in mind there's a negative affinity there. Could be kind of problematic. And then, of course, just for general wave clear content, AoE decreased defense is not bad. And when you have him awakened at the third ascension, not awakened, but third ascension, he actually has the big boy version of the decreased defense, which is very valuable. So some pretty cool things. Also, for earlier progressing accounts, the A1 is really, really good for being a triple hitter to get into passing his shield for Fire Knight, for example. Really, really good value there too as well. Although he does not provide turn meter reduction, so you have to get that from somewhere else. Now, with that being said, another good champion that I like to pull out for like early game accounts could be someone like Grizzlejar, who has not only an AoE decrease attack, destroying max HP, which could be valuable for like maybe Scarab, for example, as an example, but he also brings increased defense and block debuffs, which can be very, very useful for content like Clan Boss, which I would say is early game's probably primary focus to get off the ground. And then some other nods in terms of like really good staples for epics. You got Melga, who's a great support champion, revive. You got heals and shields. You got buff removal. She is a bit of a reader, as you can obviously see, but nevertheless pretty solid. And then, of course, I will go ahead and go to the more intermediary, so you start getting to mid-game, late-game in terms of transactional experiences. You have champions like Cornelia, who is really well known for being able to sleep targets, as well as a little bit of like pseudo-sleep / healing your team, which can be very valuable. And then she also has an aura that's not too bad as well. So think maybe early stages of Sand Devil, or maybe even some content where being able to control is very important. Think Faction Wars, where this is basically an entirely dwarf faction-based content. She could be really good for like sleep utility to kind of control the wave while you beat through it and try to clear without anybody dying. Now, with that being said, I want to get some more late game, end game kind of style approaches. Now, a lot of people have asked me this question, why 2 of this champion is being built, and I'm going to explain why. One of my favorite epics that I think is a little underrated and actually really, really strong in Sin City is Morak. Some key stages, like some pretty big roadblocks like S19 for hard difficulty on Soul Cross, has some of the most annoying waves to deal with. And this champion, complemented with some others, is really, really strong to not only enable your team to get in and fight, but also does heavy impacts of damage. So she has built-in ally attack into her kit, as well as increased strengthen for the entire team with a big AoE that does a pretty decent punch, and then of course her A1, which ignores shields. She's very, very strong. Now, I built 2 of her for Sin City specifically because of that content, along with someone like Fodbar, who I think scales up into in-game content pretty well, Soul Cross being one of the big caveats I'm talking about. Really, really strong in that regard. Now, with that being said, some of the other ones are not too crazy ideal. Like, feels just okay. I would even give Fear Gun a little bit of a nod, particularly for like Mikage progression. I believe she's one of the epics you need to be able to fuse Mikage. So if you haven't already acquired that, and that's one of the last champions you're missing, then this could be a great opportunity for you to grab it. But outside of that, that's pretty much the long and short of the epics. I mean, you got Rear Guard, who can do a little bit of ally protection and healing, along with AoE decreased attack, and a A1 spammable decreased defense. Not too bad. Good support utility champion overall. Maybe partner with Melgo, you have a really strong core support. But we're going to kind of get into the bulk of what really kind of gives a unique look into this particular fusion, or sorry, Prism event type experience. So, with that being said, we have some champions like Mountain King, we have Beauregard, we have Brogni, we have Herndig, and some other ones to name, like Molly and Samar and them. But we're missing some pretty well-known champions that are known for being very strong in today's content. So hold that to the side, but let's talk about it. Early game players, you can take whatever you can get, right? If you get a yellow, that's a W. That can help tremendous progression. Now, some big nods that I would like to give in terms of value, I would say Brogni's really strong for early game progression. He was actually one of the first legendaries I got that caused me to stay in the game. So I will always have respect for Brogni being in this game. But here's why. Block debuffs, increase attack, and a shield on his A3 that is protected, I believe, too. The shield is protected. And it can be brought down to a 3-turn cooldown. This is really great for speed tuning into comps for clan boss, like we said, for early game players. Being able to do an AoE cleanse and buff removal with his A2 makes him a really strong contender, and it also expands the value of any current active shields on all players, or all allies. So very, very strong there, too, and it's also on a 3-turn cooldown, so really low cooldowns. And then, of course, his A1 brings a small... It's actually a decent chance. It's like, what, 60% chance to land an HP burn? Not too bad. And then, of course, his passive, which is whenever someone with a shield is attacked and the shield is hit, it inflicts 25% back to the attacker, and it also heals that person by 25% of the damage overall. So, kind of like a pseudo healer, jack of all trades, buffer, debuffer, or buff stripper, or, yeah, kind of a debuffer too, since he does HP burn, and a little bit of damage and healing. So, really, really versatile, and I think he's probably one of the more well-known champions in this, although I will say there may be some alternative options that may be just as good or better down the road. Another big nod that I'll give is like Herndig on specific content, whether that's just general PvP. This is a low tier nuker, I would say maybe BC type. He does have an AoE decreased defense that brings decreased accuracy as well. But he also has the ability to grant extra turns to himself, as well as being able to do full target meter depletion, which can be useful for my mid to late game players and end game players for that matter, when you're looking at content like, for example, Dark Fae, which we are currently in the rotation of. So if you don't have a decreased turn meter champion and you're looking for one, well, maybe that could be the key answer to help you get this ball going. With that being said, we also have some pretty unique champions like Gottfried, who has a really unique passive that makes it very hard to kill someone straight out right off the rip. A good stun, a good increased defense, and he does also a removal of decreased defense and weaken, so kind of like stopping people from being able to punish your team with debuffs that do extra damage. Provoke also as well on an A1. Not too high of a chance, but decent nevertheless if you're looking for an option that does like a little bit of variety on top of that. But really more so his passive that's super value. Maybe I go second team. Maybe you don't have the fastest gear on the game right now. Could be a great opportunity for you to try a different one where you can weather the fight, weather the storm, and then come back responsively. And then, of course, you have like your single target nuker and Mountain King, who ignores shield and block damage. And he scales off of HP primarily and then some attack as well. Not too bad, right? And then, of course, you have like champions that are really good for support, maybe an upgrade to that Melga in Molly, who does a revive with turn meter as well as block damage. A Provoke that has a chance to be a 2-turn with bringing reflect damage for your team, or on her at least. And then, of course, a little bit of extra damage if someone is under HP burn, along with turn meter fill whenever she is hit. Not too bad. Not too bad. And then, of course, you got Admiral himself, who's going to be at this one. So, is this event worth it? I'm honestly going to say no. And here's why. This was a wasted potential, wasted opportunity, in my opinion, not only lucratively for the company, for Plarium, but also for players themselves. There's a lot of people who have joined me on my streams, and I talked about how there is a Dwarf Summoning Prism event that's going to come, and lo and behold, it did. We got that right, but I was kind of going with the expectation that it's a no-brainer that if you wanted to capitalize off of a good champion or good champions, that you would introduce champions that are really well known in today's gameplay, such as Trunda or G-Nut. And I feel like they're absent. Without the feel like, they are absent. And it begs the question, why, right? And I think I have some hypotheticals that I wanted to kind of bring to the board here. And this is not a justification. I still think this is a wasted opportunity. I almost feel like unless you really want Admiral, do not pull this for this event. It's not worth it. But if they had a Trunda and they had a Gina, I would say that people would be going in guns blazing to get their copy or duplicate of that champion to make their experience in raid a lot more easier and expansive, right? Well, they didn't do that, and I would beg the question, why? Well, the timing of this is kind of interesting. We are in the anniversary month for Play-In/Raid, and I feel like perhaps they got something coming down the road that is going to be the big incentive. Now, what do we do with an information like that? This is my tinfoil hat theory. So I have no substance, I have no ground to kind of speak on outside of what I think could be the case. So take this all as a hypothetical. But I do feel like in this particular regard, we have some planned or scheduled events in advance that have already been predetermined that we haven't heard about yet. By spending on this Prism event, you're denying yourself the opportunity to hold that and reserve your finances for maybe a future event. That's number one. That's when they're going to pull out the stops and the loops and bounds to give you the opportunity to get maybe that G-Nut that's going to be in a progressive or a guaranteed event down the road. I don't know exactly. It's unlikely they're going to do a guaranteed event, but it is likely that they may introduce him in a progressive style approach. They may do another follow-up Prism event where he may be present there. It's possible. I do feel like it's a little diminishing for the Dwarf summoning pool that they don't have some of the most key enterprise champions that makes the Dwarves very strong. But overall, I would assume that either they are trying to bait players into the sense that Admiral is good enough to pull for on his own, and there could be some arguments for or against it, or that they're holding out with reserving those particular champions and a future pool for someone else to go for later down the road. So trying to space out and trying to make as much of a lucrative incentive for each one going forward. Like I said, there is an argument for Admiral, but I don't know if it's super strong considering that if you don't get him and what you can get in return for that, it's a little lackluster, you know? So I think overall across all events, I am on the forlorn side to say pass on everything. I hate to say it this way. Every single event is so far seeming to be a bait-like event, and I hate to say this because I'm normally not a pessimist when it comes to players' decision-making. I'm more of a neutralist or someone that leads with logic in this regard, but I feel like this one and the other events that we talked about subsequently are a throwaway. I feel like these are events just to kind of be a placeholder for the gap that we have between the last fusion and now what we're going into, which is going to be basically go mode for, you know, Plarian's big anniversary. So word to the wise would be to slow it down, cool it off, and I would say we're chilling. If you wanted to go for it, I did this for this video because I wanted to share this pool with you guys. But I think even there, if you're not hurting for dust or oils at the moment, you could probably relax a little bit and maybe not expend too many resources to try to get enough for one pool on the dwarf sides. You know, if you're one of those type of people that likes to take a chance at maybe going for a quick Admiral, then by all means do what you got to do. But I think that these events are past. Early progressing accounts or mid-game progressing accounts, if you wanted a little bit something and you don't really have like an expansive champion pool, Prism events are a great opportunity for you to start acquiring champions. I will say for my in-game players, my late-game players, if you're looking to expand your capability, whether that's through Faction Guardians, for example, I think that any Prism event that's focused on a particular faction is a good nod to trying to progress to grab a full 10 out of 10 legendary Faction Guardian list. So please keep that in mind, but just set your expectations that the champions themselves that are accessible in this one will vary based on where your account's progression is currently at. So for my end-game players, I think that this is an easy pass. You guys obviously know that. Unless you are one of those type of people who are adamant about filling your Faction Guardians, yeah, I'm indifferent. Now, for those that are also in-game that are looking to expand upon their capability with restrictions in Siege, obviously Admiral Black Tusk is going to be a good one to go for. So you can keep all that in mind when you make your decisions, but I would always say, logistically speaking, that this one's a kind of a bit of a miss. If they had Trunda, if they had a G-Nut in there, I think you'd go all in. This would be a good event to go for. But now that they are not showing up in this particular event, I think this is an easy pass unless you really, really want Admiral. All right, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and stop yapping. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys what you kind of waited for here. Our Prism shard that we farmed for you guys today is going to be none other than Prage! It is a purple! It's a Geomancer. Unfortunately, where my account is at, it's not really that enticing for me. I'm pretty sure we're at a place now where my Geomancers are bountiful and plentiful. I have literally one that's already fully +4, almost fully awakened. I got a second one that's shortly right behind it, level 50. I can empower that one, I guess, but I don't see the need for having multiple Geomancers, so kind of a bit of a waste there. Unfortunate as it is, no yellow. I feel like most of the times whenever you're pulling like a singular Prism shard, it's kind of you go with low expectations, to be honest with you. But if you were to go in on it like a good 10 pop or a 20 pop right there, you would want a yellow at least, right? Anyways, with that being said, I think the rates are also kind of pretty much neutral. They're basically on the same par of what you expect for the average Prism experience. Now, they do have a Mercy system kicked in for the headliner, I believe. Or no, for a legendary in general. So that is a good opportunity if you're looking to guarantee yourself with legendary, but you kind of got to go in a little bit. So I would say set your expectations accordingly and just be aware that this pool is not as desirable as it could have been. Anyways, with that being said, let me know what you guys think. Are you guys going to go for the Admiral? Are you guys going to go for any other particular key champion you think I left out? I didn't say it, but Kira the Rocher is also another Lego that is a part of the Mikage fusion. So if you're looking to grab that one, you could do that too as well. I would almost say that's a wasted opportunity to farm up the epics to get the legendary. So, you know, you do what you want. If that Mikage is just like right there and you're really close to finishing, and you really want to get her as soon as possible, then by all means you can dabble in some prisms and grab maybe a Kira and of course a Fear Gun, who is a part of that fusion. So, anyways, with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always remember, stay ascended.
Got the